Here we offer an orientation program on the Space Habitat Challenge, an event organized as part of World Space Week celebrations, organized by the ISRO centers based in Trivandrum. So, World Space Week, you must be knowing this. This is the largest public space event on Earth. Public space event on Earth. It is declared by UN because of these two reasons. That is, 4th October is significant because of the first satellite launch, Sputnik 1 by USSR. And the second, 10th is significant because of the treaty that is for the peaceful use of outer space came into action on this 10th of October 1967. So UN declared this October 4th to October 10th to celebrate as World Space Week, to celebrate the contributions of space science and technology to the betterment of human conditions. So this is the background of World Space Week, and this has been celebrated by different countries. And in India, it is mostly coordinated by our Indian Space Research Organization, and VSSC and other centers of ISRO in Trivandrum is continuously carrying out activities related to this World Space Week. And this year, it is actually the theme is Women in Space, and different online, because of this pandemic condition, different online contests are being conducted for students of school and colleges. And the details are there in this particular website. You must have already seen all these things. Now, one of the event is a Space Habitat Challenge, and we are going for the orientation program on this particular event. So now this orientation program is basically meant to give an introduction, then about the event, how it is getting registered, what are the different categories, and what exactly is the contest, the challenge of a particular event, what are the assumptions or prerequisites that are required for this. That will be explained. Then we will see how to proceed with this challenge, what are the overall guidelines for activity for coming 2 or 3 weeks. Now, regarding the report generation and submission, how it will be assessed, and the feedback sessions, and all the clarifications, whatever you have on the mode of conduct of this particular event, and regarding the content of this particular presentation will be answered in the end. So you need not write down or note down the things that is getting presented here now, because this particular presentation will be available in the website. So you concentrate on this, you note down the slide numbers, and all your queries can be posted in the chat window, and according to the time availability we'll be answering it, and otherwise we will be giving the answers in the mentor group, social media platform that we are following, and I hope most of you are members of those particular groups. So let's start with our this session now. So the Space Habitat Challenge, as you are already aware, it's for the student from Kerala in 2 categories. This school category is for students from 8th to 12th, and you people are the graduate students, the second category, the senior category. And the registration is through the same website, and it is getting closed on 27th of September. So it's a team event, 3 to 5 members, and the queries regarding the content of the event is being addressed through the mentor groups. And if you are not a member, you can still become a member. Your team leader must be having the link for joining these particular platforms. And the FAQs, the most relevant questions which are asked through the mentor groups or through some ways, all are through the email or through file forms. All these things are consolidated and uploaded in the website. So the same thing can be, you can go through it to get a clarity on the mode of conduct of this particular program. Now, actually the challenge, we will come to the challenge. It is actually, you assume that you are a team of space scientists. You are given a task to build a habitat, a space habitat, on a celestial body other than Earth, an extraterrestrial space human habitat. So you are given the task to build one. So the details, why we go for space habitation for humankind. There are a hell lot of reasons to go for this. I will just explain a few of this, like the climate changes, the global warming issues, asteroid impacts. If you see the statistical assessment of the risk of asteroid impact, it is huge. It is like 1,000 people can die in a year. That is the kind of statistical assessment made on this. So that is a real issue that is a compelling reason for humankind to search for a new habitat. Then the population growth and the related resource scarcity, because the all non-renewable energy sources that we have been using for the last many years, it is getting exhausted. So we have to find new ways to live in. There are other attractive options like the abundant resources that are available on other celestial bodies, and some of the non-eco-friendly industries, especially the nuclear industries and all, can be relocated to these planets, so that the environmental pollution, I can say, that can be avoided on Mother Earth. And another interesting, attractive requirement is the spreading of life, human life, into different celestial bodies. So due to these reasons, is the need has come up because of these many reasons. Now the question is how we are going to reach. This is just, it's not a part of the challenge, but just to understand how we are going to it, and what is the complexity, or what is the importance of the assumption that you're going to make on this particular challenge. So if you consider the voyage to your celestial body, the host body that you're going to select, it has got, generally speaking, it will be having 3 phases, like the launch vehicle mission that will take your payload from Earth, or from the launch pad to the Earth mapping orbit. From there, it will be taken to the celestial body through different routes, maybe a direct home transfer. It can be through some gravity assist missions or something like that. So it will be taken to the host body, then it has to enter into its sphere of influence and its atmosphere. If it is having an atmosphere, then atmospheric entry, its descent, landing, all those things. It's a very complicated mission, especially when it is far away from Earth. The communication link, that is also getting delayed, and total mission planning will be a very hectic thing, a very complex thing. So this part is actually not part of current challenge. Now, about the challenge, as I told, the assumption is to reach the host body that you are going to select. The propulsion system and the landing system, everything is available to you. This is an assumption, but judiciously apply this, because don't assume that you are taking the whole thing for a sustained human life from Earth. Okay, there should be a judicial distinction. I mean, how you are going to assume this thing. So this particular prerequisite that you are assuming, that you can mention in the document also, what is the kind of assumption you are going to take on this particular part, and what is the kind of infrastructure that you're going to take from here, or the raw materials or whatever it is. So your task is categorized into 4, as we have given in the brochure. First is selection of the celestial body, which is the habitable for a human life. So you have to select one celestial body. That is the first part. Second one is building the necessary infrastructure for supporting human life. Second part. Third part is identify sustainable energy sources, its harvesting and storage. And the fourth point is making sustainable food, drinking water, all those things. So these four categories, I won't say categories, 4 sections are given for your task. 4 tasks are assigned in this particular challenge. Now let's go to the first one, habitability of celestial bodies. If you consider the habitability, there are a multitude of parameters are actually involved in deciding the habitability of a planet or a celestial body. And one thing I would like to interest here is that we are looking for a surface habitat. It's not an orbital habitat we are looking for. It's a surface habitat on a celestial body, and the habitat or habitability requirements on a celestial body depends on the star system about which the planet or the body is getting revolved around, the planetary characteristics, its orbit, its mass, sources available, the atmosphere present, the gravity or the mass. Then like that, there are a lot of characteristics of the planet that are to be in line with the requirements of habitability. So then only we will get a habitable body. Then the galactic neighborhood, that is the galaxy in which the system. For example, in our solar system, we are in the Milky Way. So the characteristics of Milky Way, the solar system, and Earth all are coming together to get the habitability in Earth. Life exists on Earth because of a lot of reasons. There are a lot of reasons to explain this. So just to see the star system, if you consider the photosphere temperature, the spectral class, it is from A to ABCD like that. It is going. So the spectral class rate F to mid K. This is considered as a habitable thing, or the photosphere temperature range is 4,000 to 7,000. And then the stable habitable zone, that is in some stars, the habitable zone, range of the habitable zone is getting changed with time. So that also should not be there. Then the stellar variations, so the luminosity of a star is getting increased with time. So that variation should be low. Then high metallicity, like if before the planets are getting formed, actually the composition of the star, it should be having more heavier elements or metals. So heavy stars are only, based on the observations, we understood that only heavier stars are creating habitable planets around. So this is a basis for the solar nebula theory. If you see the planetary formation theory, these are some of the reasons, some of the criteria for a star system to make a habitable planet around. Similarly, if you see the planetary characteristics, the observation says that terrestrial planets are only habitable, like the gas giants are not supporting life. Then the mass and radius, there are observations and assessment made, and based on that, the habitable planets are approximately 0.1 to 5 times the Earth mass. In that range only, it is habitable. Similarly, 0.5 to 1. These are all literature. It is available. We can go through it and understand what it is. Then about orbit and rotation, that's, as I mentioned, if the eccentricity is more, it is going to have a thermal cycling will be too high. We cannot have the habitable planet like that. Lot of factors are there. So based on all these things, the geological, ecological factors, all these things matters in deciding the habitability of a planet. Now, as a simple temporal, what is followed is presence of surface water on the planet is a direct indication of existence of life. So this is one easy way that is followed worldwide. That's why every planet, the first thing we look for is the presence of water or water generation possibility. So based on that, it's considered as an indication of habitability. So based on this, we can decide whether a planet or a celestial body is habitable or not. Now, in the task for selecting the habitable body or a celestial body, it can be a planet, it can be a moon, that is a natural satellite of a planet, it can be an asteroid or an exoplanet, that is extra solar planets, that is planets outside the solar system. So during the our space missions during the last 50 or 60 years, we have shortlisted a number of these celestial bodies which can host life. So if you consider the solar system, Earth is only there in the habitable zone. Means in the habitable conditions of all these parameters are meeting only for Earth. But there can be habitable zone. For declaring a zone to be habitable, that doesn't need to have life on it. The criteria is it should be possible to make it habitable through some means. Then also it can be called a habitable zone. So in that way, in current our solar system, Earth is only there in the habitable zone. Any of the planets like Mars is again habitable. Lunar habitat we have heard about. Then the satellites of Jupiter or Saturn, even Uranus, there are, like, you must be knowing about many of these natural satellites of these planets, which are all which may be habitable. That way only we can say. Studies are still going on, so you can search for the literature and find out. And what is available is there is a group of institutions under the searching for the extraterrestrial intelligence, SETI, which has got a habitable zones catalog for habitable planets. So you can search for it. HabCat is the habitable planet catalog. They have found almost 17,000 stars in the Milky Way itself, which can have planets like Earth to have a habitability in it. So the studies are saying the large galaxies will be having more chance to have habitable planets. So as of June 2021, it is reported that there are 60 potential habitable exoplanets, that is outside solar system. 60 are there. And inside also you have different possibilities from Earth to Uranus, including the moons and then asteroids. All these options are open to you. You can search in the websites or other publications and find out what's on. And the thing that you have to take care is that all your remaining tasks are going to be based on the selection of this particular planet. So you select a planet for which you are having all the details necessary for continuing with the coming tasks. So this is how you are going to select it. Now comes to the infrastructure part. Building necessary infrastructure for the habitat. The first of all, the thing is life supporting systems and safety systems. So life supporting systems include the breathable air, drinking water. Then you should have the protection systems or the pressure. Pressure, if it is low, can have. You must have heard about something like an Armstrong limit or something like that. It is, if you see, for example, Mars atmospheric pressure. If you see, it's only 1/100th or that order only. It is below the Armstrong limit, and our human body cannot face such a low temperature, low pressure condition. Similarly, if the pressure is more, then it is again, if you see the Venus condition, the atmospheric pressure is going to be 92 bars. So such variations are there. So having a controlled atmosphere with pressure, temperature, and a proper chemical composition, that is, breathable air has to be supplied. All these things are life supporting systems which are essential for a human habitat. Other than that, there are many safety features that are to be built in the habitat, like we should be having thermal management systems, protection from the radiations, protection from meteorite impacts, protection from the dust, like that. Lot of safety things are to be built into your habitat. So you are going to build a human habitat preferably with in situ resources, the resources that are available in that particular planet or the celestial body. You will have to use it. Of course, as we told, the judicial selection of your space missions from Earth to the planet, you cannot have multiple missions to bring all these items here. So, and for a sustained human life, you are supposed to have in situ production of all the requirements. And even suppose one of the system fails, you should be able to repair it yourself. You should not be waiting for the travel time. Maybe if you consider Mars, it takes almost a year to travel. So such things you cannot afford. So you should be self-sufficient in this particular habitat. For that, you have to build many systems. Like even the minerals, you may have to extract metal from it. You have to do manufacturing, space manufacturing. So all those essential things are to be built in at this particular planet. And all these requirements will be specific to the celestial body that you are going to select. So to explain this requirement, if you see, if you have selected the planet, selecting the location where you have to land, that is important. because for a celestial body, the equator and the poles, the conditions will be totally different. So the selection of the location is important. Then you have to build a shelter. How you are going to build it? Whether it is completely outside or it is subsurface conditions, or what is the material that you are going to build? How will be the construction? What is the material you are going to get from the planet? What you have to bring from, what is the prerequisite that you need? Then the controlled atmosphere, as I told, radiation hazard, resources from foreign bodies. This also you can think about. If you're close to an asteroid and that is having resources, you can very well have a system built in your plan, a transportation system to go to an asteroid, do the mining and collect the material and coming back. Such all your imagination can be, if it is technically justifiable, can include here. So this is one thing. Then next, waste management. How you are going to process the waste? Biodegradable waste, wet waste, dry waste, hazardous waste like nuclear waste, all those things, how we are going to manage, how we are going to do recycling of things. So such waste management can be included. Thermal management can be included, active thermal control systems. There can be basic systems also like insulations. Then heat ejection systems, like if it is a habitat inside the controlled atmosphere, if you have human beings and electronic equipment emitting the system, heat energy, how we are going to eject it out, all these things. Then from that energy, how you can use it as a regenerative energy harvesting. Such things can be, you can think about such things. Communication, habitat, one-to-one conversations, other communications through maybe towers. You can very well think about a satellite around your planet where you're going to have the habitat. Like that, all the communication part to have data networking or internet connectivity, like TV broadcasting, anything can be planned on this particular habitat. Then transportation for the surface as well as aerial transport, if it is possible. So such requirements can be considering the particular features of the planet that you're going to take, and the topology and terrain of this particular planet or the celestial body that you are taking for building the infrastructure. So that is the important task that is the third part. Next one is the harvesting energy from sustainable sources. This is also important to sustain. For a sustained habitat, you should have sustainable energy sources. So you can think about the different kind of energy resources available on Earth and which all things can be used in the planet or the celestial body where you are going to start this. So different like hydropower may not be possible. Thermal power, solar power, windmills, all these options can be tried. And you have to make a selection of a hybrid, preferably a hybrid scheme with redundancy, with proper storage system, batteries, the fuel cells, or capacitors, whatever it is. You should have a scheme for power generation, storage, and the management, transmission, distribution, everything. So you can detail on this. That is the fourth part. So these are the different parts, and the last one is establish a sustainable source for food. This is very important because depending upon the conditions on the celestial body that you have selected, a proper diet is to be planned first with a balanced nutrition. Then you should have facilities to preserve the food. You may have to have some storage from Earth for preserved food for maybe for 6 months food you will be bringing from Earth that has to be preserved, and preferably you use it only for the initial phase. But for a sustained habitation, you need to have generation of food in the habitat itself. For that, concept like space farming can be employed. For getting the drinking water extracted from the masses that is available or the resources available in the planet, that is to be planned. So a proposed scheme for the generation of a sustained food supply and drinking water. This is the fourth one. Now, those are the four sections where you have to answer, where you have to include in your report. And the report generation you must be knowing this. Documentation is an important part because we are going to assess your work based on this report. So the technical writing, your skills should be used here, and the basic requirements of a report, basic structure of a report is given here. You can refer this later, and you can very well include the photos, charts, or whatever it is. Like a technical writing, you must be familiar with this because you are graduate students. And the conditions are 30 pages, A4 size 30 pages, and you can use a font size of 12, use a single column format, and the file size should be around 30 MB. PDF format can be uploaded before 2nd of October 2021. Now the assessment will be based on this particular report, and the overall mission planning will be having a weightage. And for each of these 4 sections, especially the infrastructure buildup, you can include the sections which or the features that we have mentioned in the brochure, and you can add if you feel that something more is required in that, some more systems are required, you can add it. So that particular section will be having more weightage. Then how you're going to present it as a report, that is also having a weightage. The logical sequencing, its legible presentation, illustration, its completeness, all those will be having its own weightage. Then make sure that the originality in the concept and adaptation will be given very high weightage. Please avoid copying it completely from a document. We are not saying that you should not adopt the principles or the concepts from other projects, but you can take it, but you present it in your own way. We will be having a scrutinization, plagiarism checks, and if it is not meeting the criteria, then it may be reflected in your assessment. So after this assessment, 5 teams from each category, that is the school 5 and college 5 teams will be shortlisted for the final round, and all the participating teams will be given a feedback on the proposal. All those who have submitted the report will be getting a feedback on their proposal and the related grading. And the final assessment is for the 5 teams shortlisted. They will be making an online presentation first for the final assessment. Now, some general guidelines, like the time, I don't have to tell you, it's very limited, and manage the time judiciously. You plan your work accordingly. Selection of the host body, you should be very careful. All data should be available for your subsequent works. Then you make this. I need not explain this thing. I was making it for the school students. It's a teamwork. You make sure that all the participants are equally contributing into it. And you give justification to all your choices, right from the selection of the planet till the end. All these 4 sections, you give technical justification for all your choices. Next point, plagiarism checks, I already told. Then you include the bibliography, the references, list of references, and cite it accordingly in the report. That is important. Then you stop appropriately, that is, don't dwell on some topics for long. All participants will be presenting in the final presentation. And for further clarifications, you can contact us. And one thing I forgot to tell you regarding the college team assessment. Actually, out of these 4 sections we explained, how to make a comprehensive report containing all these sections, and you will have to explain, or more detailing has to be done on any of these 4. One section can be taken and that can be elaborated, and that will be having more weight. That is already mentioned in the brochure, but just to remind you, you have to do the total work in a systematic way. It should be properly sequenced, and from that you can select a particular section as a different chapter and explain details of that particular thing. So that is how. Thank you and all the best.